Today, we're going to sit down and talk about the ENG3 NanoVi device, which I have been testing clinically since 2018 and using personally for a little over a year every single day. It's made a massive impact on my life, and as a result, it's using the most fundamental basic principles of water, which we're made of water. We're going to sit down and talk about why this is so important, what are the uses, what are the benefits to you, and we're going to get to know Rowena a little bit and her journey and how she's integrated this into her life and now into ours. We really want you to have the experiences that we have and sit back and watch. It's really, really good to be able to have the time to get to speak with you like this. I mean, we started this journey in 2018. Can you believe that? That's like 6 years ago. And I got the chance to use this device, which seems so benign because it's just water. But immediately it changed the way that the body and the fascia articulate. And we've talked about it a lot of times, but I don't think people really get it yet. And I think I want to share our experiences with it and ask you some questions in this format, because at first I was the one who used it every day, 2 to 3 times a day. I'd be sitting on there and I kept saying, hey, it does all these good things. Hey, it works really, really good. And eventually, step by step, piece by piece over the time, everybody in our team started using it, and they all found their own magic behind it. But that's really what it is. It's finding the magic behind it, because it's not just a medical device. It does something that's much greater, that is a little hard to explain.
Well, it's funny that he says that, because when he was using it every day, and I saw everybody else in the team using it, in a way I wanted to have a self-care practice where I didn't have any machines or any technology involved. And so I avoided it for like a year. I didn't touch it. Even though I believed in it, I wanted to see if there's a way, because ultimately I believe that movement and breath and all these other things are natural
nature,
right? Yeah. And so we went to Vegas and we went to LA, and we got over chemicalized. And by the time I got back to Mexico, I went into a detox cycle. So I had a ton of mucus, fever, I wasn't feeling good, and I went on the machine. And here we are. A year later, I'm looking for some extra support or an extra boost. I went on it, and I noticed right away that I could breathe better.
Yeah.
But it felt like there was space in my head or space in my lungs, and after the first use, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this every day for the next 3 weeks. And I did it every single day, twice a day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks, and I noticed that it was like an extra sense of hydration internally. I felt looser, I felt more hydrated, I could breathe better. I even noticed my sleep starting to change.
Yeah.
So, yes, ultimately, do I want to be completely natural and be able to function without that technology? Absolutely. But there's obviously something in that machine. I don't even know the technology or the science behind it, because I didn't have those conversations with you specifically, but I have experience now with it, and it's been super valuable. And now we bring it everywhere we go. Every single country we go to, we bring it.
I love it, especially when you're traveling, because as you say, if we were all natural and everything was fine, we weren't bombarded with other things, we should be perfectly healthy. But the reality is, when we're especially traveling in different cities and all of that, that's when we can use some extra help. Mm-hmm. So I love it that you're using it. I only saw the first week of when you guys had it there, and so it was kind of limited where I saw you two using it. But
I think for me also started like when we start traveling.
Yeah.
Mainly, or when I start traveling, because I travel a little bit more, even when like we're here or we're somewhere else because of my daughter. So that was like the routine. It was like, okay, I travel, so I have to sit on the NanoVi. So it was like the NanoVi was like the thing that helped me land, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I always use it when we travel.
And otherwise?
I'm building the habit of going it daily, because I feel the 3 of us wake up in similar times. So we arrive at the same time, and it's like I think we like to do it first thing in the morning. So you see the three of us that start like
Who's
hovering, like without saying anything, like, okay, who's gonna go? And it's like, okay, nobody took it. Okay, I'm gonna sit and take like my tea or my coffee or something while I do it.
Yeah.
So it's just funny, like
We
building
compete
that.
for it in the morning. Whoever's up first.
That's
To
what
tell
I
you
was at
the
night.
to tell you the truth, being the consummate promoter that I am, I would be up in the morning and then I'd see Jay come to use it. And I'm like, oh, I'm done, because I want him to use it. So I would do that while we were in Cancun all the time, even if I hadn't used it, because I'll use it throughout the day.
Yeah.
Well, I find it's-
You've already got it integrated. The key is to put it in with your current habits. So it's like the tiny habits. You just add it to when you're already doing. You're on your computer a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the chance because you're already sitting there.
Well, that's what I do is I answer emails
Yeah.
or I'll do things on my phone while I'm on there for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I built it into a routine where it's like, I've even actually brought it next to the desk where I'm working and I'll just put it on. So I'm working and I'm getting
Perfect.
a benefit at the same time.
That's how I use it
Yeah.
too. And Cynthia also hit on something using it in the evening.
I like it in the evening before bed, and I'd love to have one next to the bed.
Yeah.
If I had one next to the bed, it'd be ideal.
I actually learned that from a customer that it helps so much because I used it during the day, but using it in the evening when my sleep quality had sort of declined. So if you've got great sleep quality, then you're fine. But since mine had declined when I started using it in the evening, then it helped, and it was noticeable. And I was like, oh man, how could I not be using it for sleep of all people?
Yeah, it's lovely at night. Very relaxing.
So I
Good
had
time to
a
take a moment. Sorry.
no, it's okay. I had somebody challenge me once because, like Jay, I don't want to use technology. I believe in the body's natural ability to heal, and they wanted me to use a device to clear an infection and inflammation in my body, and they hit me up and I said, no, I'm not going to use the device. I'm going to let my body do this. It may do it faster. Don't care. I'm going to let my body do this. Like my body wants to build the muscles of doing this. Well, they go, well, you use the NanoVi and you use the Alcaviva, and I said, oh, now I get where you're coming. If the water that I drank was okay, then I would just drink tap water, but it's not. And I don't want to pollute myself. And quite conversely, today the air that we breathe is not okay. So this is my way of rationalizing with it, because I'm just like I drink better water, I'm drinking better air through this process.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And and depending where you live, you may not have any access to that sort of beautiful, slightly humidified air like the rainforest or, somewhere where you're really getting that naturally. Most cities, you're not going to have that experience.
So now that I'm functional on that machine and I use it in my daily routine, I want to understand a little bit about it. So in like the most simple terms, what exactly is that doing? What am I breathing?
So you're breathing humidity. That's the water droplets in the humidity have been excited by specific wavelengths, and it changes the energy state of the droplet in a way that influences the water in your cells. And the nature of that water supports all the cellular activities, specifically the proteins, because they rely on the water to function. And so all we're doing with this device is creating a better environment in the cell, and the body does everything. Your better sleep, recovering, reducing inflammation, whatever it is, your body does all that stuff. This just is giving a little boost to help the body do what it knows how to do. It has its own wisdom. It knows the priorities, and it'll do what's needed for any individual.
So you're taking water that's distilled,
Yeah.
and you're using frequency
Yes.
that's changing the state of the water.
Yes. So, and the way we do that is we use specific wavelengths. The first wavelength we copied from the body. So we just mimicked what the body was doing. And it's around 1,300 nanometers, in the spectrum. And the key there is it's absorbed by water, whereas all the other, if it's red light or whatever, they are not absorbed by water. So we specifically go after the ones where the water absorbs it, because then that changes the energy of the water. And then we've added additional wavelengths to make it more powerful to get that desired effect. But there are specific wavelengths that are absorbed by water, and that's what changes the nature, the structure of the water droplet, and it's what's called easy water, exclusion zone water, ordered water. And all that really means is the water molecules are packed closely together, so it has a different, it's a different form, it's a different state, where it's more like a gel than like a liquid or a solid, which is why it's also called the fourth phase of water, because it's not just gas, liquid, and ice. There's this gel-like state, and that's what the cells need inside them to support all this activity.
And so how does that affect the protein folding?
So the proteins come out as a chain of amino acids, and if we start at the very beginning, the blueprint for the proteins is your DNA. So that's how fundamental this is. The only reason you have DNA is to be the blueprint for your proteins. So proteins are doing everything, and they make up almost all of your body. And every system is run by proteins. And so they come out as a chain of amino acids, which is the first stage of the protein, but it has to fold into complex structures before it can function. And that's when it creates these special shapes, and it has a receptor that latches onto some other receptor or something, signals, and so on. So that's when it functions. But it can't just go from a long thread into a complex shape without energy. It's not magic. It has to get the energy from somewhere. And so it's pulling the energy from the water. So the ordered water gives that energy to the protein so it folds. Now when it's folded, it does all the work. And if it misfolds or gets damaged by free radicals, then it can partially unfold, and a misfolded protein can be a liability in the body, like the plaques and things that you don't want in there. So you want that to repair fast, and of course, what repairs things? Proteins.
Yeah. And this stuff can get deep and technical. So what I want to do is dissect it in a way that I could explain this to a 5-year-old.
With that little toy that she has.
Well, without even getting into the folding, just the basic principles. We have water, right? And I've heard that water holds memory.
Water is so complex. It holds memory. It's got all these different aspects that we are just beginning to explore.
Yeah.
And there's always to kind of structure it and do things to it. And so under the umbrella of structured water, we're doing a very specific thing, which is this ordered water for this specific purpose to support the proteins. But after that, the water in the body is just, it's amazing what it does. And we're just learning about the fascia and, the hydraulics and how things actually move through capillaries and so on. The heart you can't just pump that hard to get blood everywhere.
I'm going to break it down in a 5-year-old language, and you tell me if I'm off. Okay. So we have water. And water can take on many different structures. I can sing to water, it changes structure. I can pray on water, it changes structure. Water in nature has a different structure. That machine is creating some sort of frequency that builds a structure of that water. And I'm breathing in that specific structure of water, which has an effect on the body, which has positive results.
That is perfect.
Okay. So using that is, in a way, like I feel hydrated when I use it. So obviously it's doing something in the body to help me hydrate internally, but we're breathing it and not drinking it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so what happens is when the droplet hits your mucous membrane, the energy state transfers across the water in your system. And it's sort of this ultra-fast transfer. It's not like a diffusion that slowly goes out. It's just one hits the other. And so it goes throughout your system. And that's why you breathe it in your nose, but you might notice a range of motion in your shoulders or something.
Correct.
Because it's going throughout.
Have you noticed or have you measured people's hydration levels before and after?
We have not measured hydration.
Interesting.
And where are you measuring the hydration? That's interesting.
That's
You
how
know,
I feel.
So this is a. I had a conversation with Dr. Tom Cowan.
Oh, I love his stuff.
Yeah, and
He's got a
and
nice
he this is where it gets really messy in how we measure it, because I know clinically when we would measure it, we had these tests, and then we had the equipment that would test it by zone in the body and where what limb and stuff like that. But even then, what he said was interesting. He said, so I says, I've been in ER. I've cut into the body many times. I'm a surgeon as well. And says, but as I cut into the body, I don't see water pouring out of it.
Right.
So he says, where is the water? And
It's like little containers and things.
well, it's that fourth phase of water. It's the gel.
Yeah.
So basically, the water we refer to is the gel.
Yeah.
So my feeling and what I noticed when I put it into clinical practice in 2018 is that we had a 2-hour treatment cycle. We would put somebody on this for 15 minutes while they're waiting in the lobby. That 2 hours shrunk immediately down to 70 minutes. And the reason why is because we could move the tissue faster.
Right.
So lubrication is maybe one way to say it.
Yeah, I think it is, like, it's what makes sense to us intuitively.
Yeah.
Like, Tom might not agree because he might get more scientific.
No, I think he actually agreed with that, because he's saying it's a gel, and if there's more proliferation of the gel, then I have a lubrication, because that would explain the feeling of hydration, would you not think?
Yeah. And the other thing that comes where Tom Cowan comes in is his book on the heart and easy water. And the capillaries, it might be something that you would notice in the capillaries, microcirculation. If that improves, then that's a suggestion that you've got more hydration in the system. Mm-hmm. So that would be a place to look for.
That's what we call, and the capillaries is basically the blood and the water and the nutrients going out into what we know as the fascia, the tissues,
Right, and it might be like just they're tiny. They're not like
it's like fingers that go into the fascia. You got a blood vein, you get a bunch of fingers over the capillaries. Yeah.
Well, I feel the human body is water vibrating at a specific frequency. And when you vibrate water at specific frequencies, it takes on different shapes and consistencies. Sometimes it's more wet and flowy, sometimes it's a little bit more jelly or harder. And so I think that the hydration component is because we're taking in structured water, really, but through breath or through breathing, which is one of the fastest mechanisms in the body. Right,
and your lung surface is huge, so you've got a lot of area for it to connect. But I should clarify, one little thing is that the ordered water I'm talking about with the molecules pressed together, that only forms on surfaces. So there may be ways to structure a glass of water that would be different, but this ordered water won't fill a glass. It will only be on the surface of the glass, and inside your cells you have endless surfaces. Like there's so many things in there. All the mitochondria, there might be 10,000 proteins in one cell, and the cell's really small.
So then how do you get that without that machine? How can I get that in my body if I didn't have a machine present?
The sunlight will have the whole spectrum of wavelengths we can see and wavelengths we can't see. These are wavelengths we cannot see. They're well above visible light. And some of those will be absorbed by the water in the air and humidity. So if you're in a humid area, then in a rainforest or whatever, with the light coming through, you're very likely breathing something similar.
Or a waterfall.
A waterfall.
Like Shannon Falls.
With light. Or if you were rowing on the water, now there's a mist down low, and that people feel great doing their early morning row. But there has to be the light coming through the water for that to get the same thing as what this is.
So in a way, when we see the rainbow, I might be wrong on this, but that's water molecules in the air and then the sunlight coming through it.
Right, and this is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Sure. So then why does that machine have different colors?
Oh, that's just aesthetic. So this is really so that you can change it for your mood if people are
Okay,
paying attention
I
to
gotta
it.
step in here. I know.
Light is valuable.
Well, because the other day
Hey.
when we were in Cancun, Gary's like, I think this is aligned to the chakras.
So,
Of course
okay,
it is.
okay, so I
Absolutely
can
it is.
demonstrate this. I've demonstrated this on film where I move the color through the chakras and I can see the tonation of the skin change. I have it on video so that I can actually drive it to the upper chakras and it goes
Yeah.
red. Drive it to the lower chakras and it goes red.
And it will automatically cycle through those chakras.
So my theory is that your partner, the German scientist, is actually secretly helping us balance our chakras, and he doesn't
Okay,
want
just to clarify, that was completely me.
to.
He is like, no, we are doing this specific thing and we can prove that. We've got lots of evidence, we've got the science. The benefits of light are pretty well understood for maybe a few centuries. However, that is not a German engineer's approach to this device. And I absolutely, so we want the color so you can tell if the thing's running or not, it's decorative. And so I absolutely would not let go of having that specific
I'm glad you
series.
did because
Thank you for doing that.
because when we have the other lights, like especially as we do fascial maneuvers, people become more sensitive. They can actually feel it in the lower chakra. They can feel it change to the head or the heart. So they can actually feel it. I ask them, I cover this up, and I say, "Where do you feel this?" Well, I feel it in the heart.
Oh yeah, I believe there's so much value to light, and people like Dave Asprey, I don't know if you know him, but he'll it's going to be that red, it's the base chakra that in the evening, or of course you're going to be red, kind of thing, and so people use it to different degrees.
Yeah.
And I think that of course I think there's a lot to be said for color. And the other thing that there's another sense here, by the way. You can breathe it like this, or you put a cannula on it. And then that's when Jason's working at his desk, he's got a cannula to connect. But you can take this tube off, put some essential oil in one end of it, put that one out, put it on here, and now you have this beautiful aromatherapy.
I've done that many times.
And you can connect orange with sweet orange aromatherapy.
Yeah.
So,
So the where I've used this for quite often is to engage this with the terpenes in the essential oils, because the terpenes have a dramatic effect on the body, and this is a transport mechanism for the terpenes.
I love it. I just want to know more about it. I actually kind of almost have no clue, but I think there's so much to it. Just like with light, these things are senses. They're meant to be used, and our body, values what comes in through them.
Well, people diffuse oil in the house. Well, if you put oil on here, it would be like 1,000 times greater than diffusing it in the house, because it's riding on a different carrier, which is a structured carrier.
Oh, interesting. I never thought of that.
Because the oils work already, and they adjust the mood and the frequency. What I'd love to do actually is put that Liang on there, because it gives me a feeling of being giggly and high.
Ooh. I want to see you giggling.
There is some sitting on
So
the couch.
Cynthia and I should, when we use it at night, we should be using this with lavender or whatever is best for sleep.
Moon cycle.
Yeah, and at night, if you're just sitting there, you're not trying to work, in which case you don't need the candela. Do
I
people
use
know
it
what
that
I'm
way most
talking
of the
about?
time.
Yeah, the candle.
Oh, there's one here.
The down here. Yes.
Do you find there's a difference between no cannula and cannula?
In clinical settings, they always use the cannula because you can't trust a person. If I was sitting here and I had it like this, and then I turned to talk to you, I'm not getting anything.
Sure.
And it has to connect to water. So that's why Gary, like when you're working at your desk and you might want to take your phone or look or whatever, the candle is way easier than trying to sit still. Some people, like Ben Greenfield, uses it with it like this, and he sits up and he types and stuff, and I just don't work that way.
But do you find it more potent with or without?
It's the same if you're about an inch or so from here, but if you're this far out, it's going to get more and more diffused.
Yeah.
So correctly used, the two are equivalent, but you have to make sure the tube's right there.
Sure.
Do not move.
Yeah.
And like stay.
And
stay.
then there's like with Ben Greenfield, if he's a bit further, it doesn't really matter because he's using it for a long time, so over time he might get the regular one. And I don't know, maybe he normally has it pretty close, but I've seen him and I don't trust him.
Yeah. So who would you recommend this to?
Well, everybody. Where we get the most use are for any chronic illness because they're all a result of too much oxidative stress and not enough repair. And if you can help that, reduce that cycle, it's used a lot for chronic illness. On the healthy side, people use it for performance, which is measurable, which for you should be measurable.
Yeah.
You're such athletes. That should be really
It is
noticeable.
Yeah.
So you can pre-treat with it and have a performance boost, or you post-treat with it and you have a faster recovery. And those should be really, especially if you're so trained. Like when somebody's had a lot of experience as an athlete, they absolutely know that difference. And speaking of athletes, Tara, the gold medalist, she and her husband Hunter, she's a U.S. long jumper, and he's a Paralympian. And they got a device just before they went to the Olympics, and she won gold.
That's awesome.
I love it. And they said, we don't want to go to Paris without a device. And we're like, okay. And she's so great. She's just one of those beautiful people, So anyway, for athletes, it's very noticeable. And especially the guys that are doing wear and tear on their body, they should all be using it. And then the other big area is healthy aging, longevity, whatever. Stay well. Do it and don't get sick. Do it and just help your body maintain its healthy state longer. And maybe
There's a big group of children. You have children that are using it?
we have used it at all ages, including newborns.
Yeah.
And children, when they're challenged, especially neurological issues or behavioral issues and so on, it will balance the autonomic nervous system, which is partly what you were saying when you have it. You pre-treat with it at your clinic, which was Human Garage in LA, which was an amazing place. But with children, it'll calm them down. It'll center them, even these really distracted children. So it can be helpful that way. And then, unfortunately, there's more children with more challenges than we would want to see. It's like a little bit, it's very concerning, that these kids at young ages are already having metabolic issues and so on.
Imagine having that in a classroom.
Oh yeah.
One
Take a
for each
turn.
child.
So one of the things, because this is first of all, so people that are watching this get their hand up. It's a medical device. It's cleared to make claims in certain ranges of disease and function or.
Not really. We can't make disease claims because we haven't studied specific diseases. We always study the underlying things like metabolic health or
fair statement.
It's such a funny game.
So, but the important thing that people to note that this is not made. All the components you guys make yourself. So the price of the machine is out of the reach for a lot of average individuals. But and there is a smaller device that they can use. But what we are targeting with our use is we have groups of people that are coming together all over the world, all over the country right now, where there's like 20, 40, 60 core members within the fascial maneuver human garage community. And what we're now encouraging them to do, this is why we're doing this video today, to explain how much this has benefited us, is to purchase one amongst the community and have it in a common place, because they come together once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week in a common place to do this. And this from a technology standpoint is one of the cheapest things. It's because it's water, and this thing just goes forever.
Right. And that's such a good point, that over time, and there's no consumable that's expensive.
Filter or replacement.
And that's my favorite thing, is that they get shared, because this guy, I did the math, and if Garry was the only one using it every day, it would last him 163 years. And that would be the minimum failure, which you probably wouldn't fail, but that's the sort of weakest link in the device would last him.
So that would be 40 years amongst us. Okay, so if I take out one of them, I get an extra.
You can live
I
longer.
get an extra 11 years or 12
Depends
years.
which one. But the key is like you could have easily 20, 30 or more people sharing this thing. You don't have to use it every day. If you can, that's great. If you've already got a disorder, try to use it every day. But you can have many people sharing it, and that's kind of our goal, is to get it in settings where it's accessible. But then you mentioned coming together, which is another upside, is once you have a community, then that's got a huge value. That's got a huge health benefit in its own right. So you're just kind of accelerating things.
Do you have a mobile version?
A what?
Do you have a mobile version that you're working on?
This is the mobile version.
No, but like a pocket-sized one. Is that even possible?
It's very full inside here.
Yeah.
And it's not, I understand, so everybody knows how it works. This thing comes off, you change the water, so it's not very portable because this would fall off if you can't just tip it. But that re-engineering and the compliance piece of it and all of that we're not doing it. It's too expensive. We're just trying to, get this version going and make it, because there's such a big investment to get this thing all the way through the process. So there isn't one right now, although I'd love to have, even if it were similar, if it were just ruggedized, so you could just, grab and go.
I mean, reasonably, it's pretty rugged. I mean, I have the carrying case, which was one of the things. If you buy it through us, you're going to get a carrying case. We're also going to give you some supplements. If you do, and we have a number of people that have bought it as a part of a recommendation. But what we find is that generally it's the high net worth people that have bought it, or the teams. Now we're actually highly promoting this into our community. Because we have groups, pockets all over North America and the world, and they're now at the stage where they're organizing, coming together.
I think that coming together and community health, I just think it's really important. And I think people are going to build on that, which is what we should be doing as humanity, So that's, but the travel case is very easy to use, and you can just switch the jars. You don't even have to pour out the water. You just put it into a jar with a lid and roll it out the door. So
that's very convenient, by the way, because you wouldn't believe it, but sometimes we can't find distilled water
in certain countries.
Yeah. And you can actually run it with the cord. You can run it right out of the case. You don't even have to take it out of the case.
Yeah.
To just set it up beside your bed in a hotel room and run it. So,
that's good to know.
Yeah.
So how did you get here?
I was a tech entrepreneur. I started in 1995. And just in case post-production makes me look like I'm 30. And I said I would help Hans Eng, he's the absolute, corner. He's the foundation of this. Is his work, his ideas, his building it, his engineering. He's a German engineer. His English is, especially at that time, was suboptimal. And I said I'd help. And then it was like, dang, this helps people. This is fun. And I've done business-to-business commerce in the logistics industry, and nobody ever called and said, "Oh my gosh, your international trade documents saved my life," or something. And I was like, I love this thing. It's really fun to be around where you can help people. And so I never left, even though I was just a volunteer at first. And then the two of us, built this, moved to having patents, and built the company around this technology. So,
how come it's always the Germans?
And the women.
You don't have to answer.
I think Europeans are often more open to biophysics, and in the US we tend towards biochemistry. And so we're looking for a pill you can put in there But in Europe, they're more open to doing things with devices. I really think it's a different attitude. The Russians also.
Russians, I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, I
we
was
got
gonna
tech.
say the Russians.
Yeah.
You want the Russians and the Germans.
Yeah,
Some of our
we've got some
sites-
Russian tech.
But that's to your point.
Yeah.
That's such a more inexpensive way to treat people than with pharmaceuticals.
Well, it gives the body the highest. We believe in the body's ability to heal. A pill does not help the body heal. A device stimulates the body into a healing mode. So the pill is actually something the body has to transmute, creating a waste product to then heal, where a device is actually stimulating that core function in the body without having to have a waste product.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of Hans Eng's most famous statements, at least to me, was that if you take, a pharmaceutical or, something, and you expect it to just do what you want it to do, instead of having these different byproducts or going places you don't want it, he said that's like trying to establish a pee corner in a swimming pool.
How many side effects or possible secondary effects, like
Yeah.
everything has on a label?
I think this is why I use it though. It's because it's water.
Yeah.
So moving, walking, breathing, they're all natural things. So that is technically in a way a natural component. You're taking something that's happening in nature and you're putting it in a device that I can carry anywhere. And that I think also goes back to the thing that Gary was talking about. Well, you use a device to heal. It's like, well, technically I'm just taking water that you would find under a waterfall with sun running
Yes.
through it, and I'm putting it in a device and carrying it with me everywhere I go. So in a way
There's I don't know anything else that's as fundamental as this is in terms of just boosting at such a natural level, because you're right, it's not overriding anything, and that's so rare with anything you put on or in your body, that you'd still preserve 100% of the body's wisdom.
This would be helpful for people that are in countries that are like here in Vancouver in the wintertime, when it's so dark for so long and so rainy. Does it help with that feeling of sunshine and the body getting that feeling of water? Does it help with that?
I have not noticed that, and I would say light.
The
Now, that's
light,
when
Yeah.
you really want to add those wavelengths, because we're at a latitude here, and we tend to have gray skies, and so that's my opinion, is that is a place where you could augment. But again, to your point, you're augmenting sunshine. It's not like you've made something out and you're overriding, the body doesn't know what to do with it. You're just giving it what comes naturally. But definitely mood is an issue.
So we're really excited about driving this to the next step. For me, it was important that I didn't force any of these guys into this. They found their way into the use over time. And I would just drop hints, say, have you sat on an NanoVi? Have you tried this stuff? But over time, what happens is everybody found their way, which is important, because then there is a personal experience. And once we have a personal experience with this, once someone's used it long enough and they have a personal experience and they have the contrast of not using it, it is night and day difference. And
we're really excited about getting this out, getting the word out. I told you years ago that we were going to put a lot of energy into making this happen. The way to make it happen, really, the long term of this, is to get it into our communities and let them co-buy this with some other technologies that they can't always afford themselves. And that's really where this comes into play. And perfect
It turned
time.
off, literally.
Our time is over. Oh
Yeah.
no.